Three-wheelers are uncommon. They are impractical, often uncomfortable, and more unsafe than a four-wheeled car. But they have a long and varied history with a cult following of car enthusiasts. In this video, I'll talk about their story and if they have a part to play in the future of cars. The three-wheeler story begins in 1885 with the world's first production car, the Benz patent motor wagon. It had one wheel at the front and two at the back, and used a single-cylinder four-stroke engine. Around 25 were sold over the next 8 years, and Carl Benz's wife Bertha used the patent motor wagon in the world's first cross-country drivers promotion. A grueling 66-mile journey was the first long journey made in the car, and the route is now signposted for tourists and car enthusiasts to drive. One of the most famous three-wheelers was made by Morgan. It began with the V-twin in 1911, which was derived from his runabout. It used a 7-horsepower, 2-cylinder engine with independent front suspension and no reverse gear. The Morgan became the only car to be shown in the window at Harrods. The V-twin won a few races, and after the war a few new versions were made. Despite Morgan being seen as niche now, the V-twin competed with popular models at the time. It would be replaced by the F-Series in 1933, which had a more powerful engine from the Ford Model Y, and now there was an option for 4 seats. Morgan would stop producing three-wheelers in 1952, and it would take 60 years for them to return to the brand. The next notable three-wheeled car was the Isetta, most commonly referred to as the BMW Isetta. It was made by different companies from different regions. It was originally made by ISO, an Italian brand, and its new compact design became a big talking point in the automotive world. It used a 9.5 horsepower, 2-stroke motorbike engine, and because of this, Isettas was very fuel efficient. ISO would only make the Isetta for a few years due to competition with the Fiat 500 and then wanting to build a new sports car. The Autocarro was more popular, and it was a commercial version of the Isetta with variants like a flatbed, enclosed loading space and a tilting bed being offered. ISO had sold licenses to companies in France, Argentina and Brazil, but it was BMW who made the most recognised Isetta. The German brand bought tooling for the Isetta but went about making it their own. They used a slightly more powerful 12 horsepower engine and different body panels. The Isetta got a larger 300cc engine due to regulation changes, and in 1956 the Isetta Moto Coupe Deluxe was introduced with a sliding side window instead of the bubble window. The Isetta 600 was a stretched Isetta to allow it to fit in 4 seats, and it had a more powerful engine. The BMW Isetta entered the British market in 1957 under the control of Dunsfold Tools Limited, and the steering wheel and door hinge were moved and a counterweight was added due to the driver being on the same side of the car as the engine. The 4-wheeled Isetta was not popular in Britain, but the 3-wheeled model sold relatively well due to it being exempt from tax. The PLP 50 is another famous three-wheeler. It was made for 3 years from 1962, but has now been reincarnated with an electric version also being offered. It only has 1 seat and no reverse gear, but limited production saw one sell for $176,000 in 2016. Famously the world's smallest production car, the P50 used a single-cylinder engine with a top speed of 37 miles per hour. The car was made even more famous thanks to Top Gear, where Jeremy Clarkson drove it through the BBC offices. It was made alongside a larger Trident which used the same engine. Both cars are now made by Peel Engineering Limited due to the curiosity surrounding the two Manx cars. The Reliant Regal followed on from the Regent and helped to make the British company Reliant famous for three-wheelers, despite them starting by making sports cars. Built in Tamworth, the Regal would last over 21 years and 7 generations and sold well, but its fame wouldn't come from sales. The Regal would use engines varying from 600 to 800cc and would eventually use a fiberglass body. The Regal was available as a saloon, van, estate and pickup truck, as well as some generations having convertible models. The Regal's claim to fame came from the British TV show Only Fools and Horses, where a yellow Supervan and later Supervan 3 were used with the iconic Trotters Independent Trading branding. The Regal Supervan 3 was also used in Mr. Bean, where a light blue model was frequently involved in accidents. It is a common misconception that Del Boy used the Regal's more famous successor, the Robin, though this is not the case. Speaking of the Robin, it replaced the Regal in 1973 with a 750cc engine, although this was upgraded to 850cc 2 years later. It was supposed to be replaced by the Rialto in 1982, but an updated Robin would return in 1989. The new model had an updated fiberglass body and would later receive a new interior as well as new colours offered. The Mark III would be the final generation of Robin, with the fine leather model having gold paint, leather seats, along with carpet and a walnut dashboard, and gold plaques with the name of the owner engraved on them. The Robin would carry on under B&M Plastics in 2001. They had more luxurious features than previous Robins. However, the company ran into financial difficulties and only 40 were ever made. The Robin sold incredibly well for Reliant, and it is the second most popular fiberglass car in history. They helped Reliant to be the biggest British car manufacturer at one point. The Robin has featured most famously in Top Gear, where Hammond and May converted the Robin into a space shuttle, and later Jeremy Clarkson would drive one and rolled it many times. In later episodes, the Robin was driven around the test track by two different drivers who both rolled it. Clarkson later admitted that it was weighted on one side and that the wheels had been changed to make the car more unstable. Another British three-wheeler is the Bond Bug. Made during the early 70s, it was originally designed to be a Reliant, and this became a reality in 1969 when Reliant bought Bond Cars Limited. Using a mix of Reliant parts and a Reliant engine, the Bug wasn't as slow as the Robin, being able to exceed the UK national speed limit. Less than 200 Bugs are made, with production being stopped to allow Reliant to focus on the increasing demand for Robins. The legacy would continue, with prototype four-wheel Bugs being made and kits being made to make replicas during the 90s. A redesigned Bug called the Sprint was shown, and some people involved with Reliant pushed for it to go into production, but it wouldn't due to a predicted lack of sales. A four-wheeled model was developed, but Reliant didn't have the funds to put it into production. One of the only three-wheelers made at the moment is by Morgan. Their revival of these came in 2012 with the three-wheeler. Due to it being only 550 kilos, it had a 0 to 62 time of 4.5 seconds and it used a manual gearbox. It was replaced last year by the Super 3, which uses a CX platform used by the Plus 4 and Plus 6. Using a 118 horsepower Ford engine, it has a slower 0 to 60 time due to it weighing around 85 kilos more than its predecessor. So what is the future for three-wheeled cars? They are few and far between at the moment, with the Morgan being the only notable one on sale currently. There may be some electric offerings though, as companies try to find ways to stand out and increase efficiency whilst lowering the price. Morgan developed an electric version of the three-wheeler called the EV3, though it was scrapped due to supply issues. There are a few options on the horizon, with most well known being the Aptera, which is solar charged. It has been crowdfunded in the USA and has around 40,000 reservations. It is designed to be the most efficient EV ever, and despite delays due to problems with suppliers requiring additional funding, it looks set to launch next year. The Bricklin 3 EV is marketed as a luxury sports car, despite its affordable price, and was intended to begin production last year, although it is unclear when production will actually commence. The future is unclear for this niche category of cars, but one thing is certain, that there have been some truly iconic ones so far. From the first ever production car, to one of the most engaging sports cars at the moment, three-wheelers will always have a special place in the car world. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe and watch another one of my videos.